Welcome back to Hardball. So what did we learn from yesterday's vote? Here to talk about it are the four big lessons, you might say, from NBC News political analyst Charlie Cook, who's editor and publisher of the Cook Report, and Melinda Henneberger, who's editor-in-chief of PoliticsDaily.com. Charlie, you first. Let's take a look at lesson number one. As we see it, Democrats lost the independent voter. Let's look at these numbers here. Among Obama, we've got back in 08, the Democrats did decently well, 51 to 47. In New Jersey this time, 51% of independents was last year. This year, it's 60 to 30 for the Republican. In Virginia, Obama won 49% of the independents last time. That's only a year ago. This time, Bob McDonnell rolled it up to 66% of the independents. A real switch around. Your thoughts why?
Well, independent voters, swing voters in the middle, those are that's where the juice comes from. Austin Powers would say that's where he gets his mojo. And the thing is, that's the key group that swung. That's the group that makes all the difference in the world. And while this election, I agree with the other assessments that this election wasn't, a referendum up or down on President Obama personally. It was really more on the to a certain extent on the Democratic Party. But the thing is that you saw the president's numbers in the National Gallup polls, for example, dropped from the 50s down in the 40s among independents back around the middle part of the summer. And he had been 60s and 50s, then down in the 40s. And the thing is, it's those independent voters, they've swung. And in Virginia, which is, I think, the one race that legitimately you can look at and make some conclusions over, they had been going overwhelmingly in the last two Senate races, the last governor's race for independents. And this time they swung the other way. And I think it's something that Democrats ought to really, really worry about.
Melinda, I want you to look at age here, because back in Virginia, just take one state that's sort of a purple state now, which went for Barack Obama. And one reason it went for Barack Obama, maybe the main reason, is that most voters were under 44. He carried 52% of the voters were under 44. And that told me a lot. So this time around, only 34% of the voters were under 44. That really hurt the Democratic candidate this time around.
That finding was the thing that most jumped out at me from last night. I think the takeaway for the Democrats should be, these kids who turned out in force for Barack Obama, half of which turned out last night in both Virginia and New Jersey, they didn't come out for Barack Obama because they were hoping for another negative campaign. They didn't come out for Barack Obama saying, boy, we'd sure love to get behind someone who makes fun of people who could stand to lose a few pounds. The negative campaigns in both Virginia and New Jersey are huge turnoffs to independent voters and to young voters. And I hope that the takeaway for the Democratic Party will be, if we wanted to have a Rove-style campaign, if we want Rahm Emanuel to be our Karl Rove, we might just have been Republicans from the start, and these people are not going to turn out for that. So,
Charlie, do you agree with that? The negative, I watched it in Philadelphia, all that Jersey negative stuff by Corzine. Nasty, 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 over and over again. Mm-hmm. Does that drive down the younger voter?
Well, I don't think that's what happened. First of all, midterm elections, off-year elections are always older. But the other thing is, these younger voters, I've got a 23-year-old daughter and a 20-year-old son that were absolutely in love with Barack Obama. And the thing is, it was a personal relationship. It doesn't convey to the Democratic Party or Democratic candidates for governor, or House, or Senate, or anything else. It's a personal relationship. I think they'll be back with him in 2012, probably, but it's not a party deal.
Well, here's the thing that has nothing to do with party, but with power. We had three incumbents. Let's take a look at this. Number three, the goal. Look at the incumbents. Bloomberg, with all his money and influence, and he's a pretty competent mayor by all standards, didn't get reelected with any mojo, as you'd put it, Charlie. And then Corzine lost big time. It looked like people wanted to take a whack at Wall Street at big shots at incumbents, period.
Well, or that they voted for change. I mean, the thing about it is these independent voters voted for change in 2008 and in 2006, and they're voting for change in 2009, and they may very well vote for change in 2010. They're independent for a reason. They're not rooted in a party, and they typically are very, very fickle, and they signed up for change, but they're not sure that the change they got is what they had in mind. I mean, it was more throw President Bush out or throw Republicans Republicans out, though anybody had any connection to George Bush out, but they weren't specific about exactly what they wanted, and they're not really sure this is what they wanted.
Melinda, let me take a look at, let's all take a look, and Charlie, when you get a chance here too, look at what happened in upstate New York. The right wing came in, they knocked out the regular Republican candidate because they didn't like the way they were picked, they didn't like their point of view on gay rights, on economic issues or whatever, and then that candidate got whacked by the Democrats. So is this a message, Melinda, for Democrats? You have an opportunity to cherry pick and to fish in troubled waters when Republicans go into civil war? Is that one of the messages?
I mean, the Democrats, I would say, must be delighted with the outcome and with what happened to Sarah Palin yesterday in that one place. I'm not sure that that's a message to Republicans that these teabaggers going in and Sarah Palin leading the charge is going to be terribly effective. But back to what you were saying earlier, I think last night was more of a referendum on Obama in that, Obama going in for Corzine as many times as he did, I think that he came off like politics as usual.
Yeah.
He came in there bashing the Republicans in the same old way, and I don't think that plays with independents at all or the young people. And I just think that they said, you don't look like change I can believe in to me, and
Charlie,
I want to...
I'm sorry, Melinda. Charlie, I only have a minute here. That's exactly the point I was making with Robert Gibbs a minute ago on the air. You guys have let the president become, through imagery, with the golf and the fundraisers and hanging around with the Wall Street crowd, the Geithners, the Summers, the Paulsons. He begins to look like a Clinton. He looks like another old Democrat who's been in there too long. How do you get to be an incumbent so fast?
Well, I mean, I think part of what presidents have to do is part of the job, as Robert said, part of the job is raising money. And it was whether you're a Democrat.
Stinks.
Well, it may stink, but that's part of the job description. I mean, it's like, it's just for a part of the deal. But back on to the New York 23, that was a case. I mean, Democrats got a great deal. They won a seat with less than half the votes. And the ironic thing is that there are a lot of people in the Republican establishment that are breathing a sigh of relief that Doug Hoffman, the conservative candidate, lost. Because the reason they're doing that is not that they had any love lost for the Republican nominee who ended up dropping out, but the reason was that they don't want ideological purges taking place and costing them the next election. And that's what would have been triggered had Doug Hoffman won. So the thing is, you shouldn't have parties picking nominees in a closed room by 11 county chairs, and that's how you get stupid decisions. And their selection was dumb. I mean, it should have never happened. But this was such a bizarre race that is not representative of anything I've seen in 37 years of watching politics.
Melinda, how many seats in the country do you think could be won by wingnuts?
Not many. I don't think this was a very strange race, but I'm not sure that this is the recipe for victory. That there's a lot of energy, but when it comes down to it, if you have to put together voters from across the spectrum, it's never going to work.
Charlie, how many wingnut seats are there out of 535?
I think there are about half of the House members over there are wingnuts already.
Really?
I mean, whether they're right or left wingnuts. I mean, these people that are elected in one-party districts. But the thing is, you can nominate a moderate Republican, but one that's pro-choice, pro-gay rights, pro-card check, and pro-Obama stimulus. She's probably representative of 0.5% of the Republican elected officials in America. But it's style that counts. And in the Virginia governor's race, they nominated a staunch, principled conservative, but one that stylistically was moderate.
Charlie, it looks like they picked that candidate in upstate New York by a card check method, if you think about it. They go around, they say, you know what I mean? It was almost like one of those card check votes, one-on-one. Anyway, thank you, Charlie Cook. Thank you, Melinda Henneberger.